Hello there and welcome back to the Sound Alchemy Podcast, the place where we talk about the grim darkness of the current era when it comes to the music business. And today we're going to be trying to be positive once again for a change. I don't know how long that's going to last in this episode in particular, because we're going to be tackling some of the stuff that would be a good idea to acquire if you were to get started in music today, in this day of the Lord, 2025. Year of the Lord.
Year of the Lord, yes.
So, on that note, let me introduce you to the Stone and Raven. I gotta say, it's not beautiful. They were amazing. So much. And look at that. Somehow, we kind of look coordinated. I just realized that.
Yeah, this was an excellent,
lame.
By the way, because it's kind of lame.
Lame. Yeah, you didn't realize. Wherever. That's what it is.
Yeah.
So, yes.
So, yeah. Hello, boys. How's it going? I'm very glad to be back, and it's great to have you here as well. So, to get the conversation going then, let's establish something first, because you mentioned people getting into music in 2025, the year of the Lord.
Yes.
Is there people getting into music in 2025, the year of the Lord?
Great question. Look, I have seen many things. No, but I have seen some statistics. I don't necessarily, speaking, have them at hand right now. But it seems that there is a little bit of an increment in sales for electric guitars.
That's actually good.
A slight bump. That's good. Also, the pedal companies are producing like it's going out of fashion. That shows you that there is actual health in that particular market.
Good.
That's good because if you think about it, sales for guitar pedals means that there are people who are buying guitar pedals, obviously. But what does that mean? There is a reason why they're buying them, and it's not collecting.
Yeah.
Some of them are, of course. But that also, since these are not necessarily speaking collectible items, this is stuff that you use it.
Yeah.
That means that there is actual interest in the masses, for just to use a term, when it comes to the production of music, to wherever level of professionality.
Yeah.
So that's a great sign. Also, you see that there is a plenty of software being produced and developed, and always in constant motion. And software, it's very important to see as a huge indicative, because software tends to be cheaper or it's easier to acquire if you are there to sail the high seas. Not that I condone it. Especially in this case, I never condone it, for real. Because this is one of those cases that I think there is actual huge, morally speaking, is very, you need to spin it very... a lot. You need to spin it a lot for you to convince yourself that you're not actually stealing.
That's not wrong, yes.
Yeah, but whatever, I digress. Software is easier to acquire, and you see plenty of plugins or digital audio workstations or any form of in-betweens, such as Tonics or Machine, or the Akai stuff, MPCs, being developed and in constant development. So that means that there is a thriving market somehow.
Somehow indeed.
Somehow, yeah, for real, because it's the kind of stuff that, given the current circumstances, culturally speaking, you wouldn't expect to see, being frank.
But I think, would you attribute it to some kind of a counter movement? Because music nowadays, the most popular kinds of music nowadays, they actually require very little, especially if someone that wishes to venture in them.
Are you talking about that kind of ghetto style?
I'm talking about what everybody knows that I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Whatever is very popular and very current.
Yeah.
It actually requires very little on the sense of instruments or anything like that. Yeah. Anything that you would consider musical in nature. Would you say that the pursuit for musical instruments, for that the resurgence in that, is kind of like a counter movement to that?
I can see where you're going with this. Yeah, I can see that being one of the indicatives. Also, that, and this is a wild guess, this is just my own interpretation of things, and this is much more of a possible scenario rather than an actual cause, okay? But there is some form of logic behind what I'm about to say. I think younger generations, the ones that didn't grow up with the bombardment of hip hop and pop from the 2010s, they are not resonating with it. And an example that I can give is Katy Perry's kind of lackluster tour. She's going through a lot of problems right now. She's not selling out. She got her show, his residency at Vegas, canceled for good. So that shows you that the the masses are changing their perspective or the way that the kind of stuff that they are consuming. There are many details involved. It could be a generational thing. There are many things.
Yeah.
But I think that this, what I just said, has some form of effect or is being replicated in the fact that some traditional instruments are starting to get acquired by the masses. Now, the thing is this: how many of them are actually playing rock music? We don't know. We don't know. Or how many of them are actually pursuing an actual career? We don't know either. Another thing that I think is a good indicative, once again, coming back to the guitar pedals, if you go to the guitar tube, everything related to guitars on YouTube, it's very prolific. There's plenty of content. And you did some research a few months ago.
Yeah.
Don't tell me that worship.
Huge.
It's a category, man.
Yeah, huge.
Worship guitar pedal boards. That alone, it's a freaking category. You got no, man.
And that in the realm of guitars, but you have the same applied for drums, the same applied for bass.
Yeah.
It's actually impressive.
Yeah, just the worshiping guys.
Yeah.
Those guys are huge, man. That shows you a good push. And how many of them are actually into music? Everybody.
Yeah.
Because they do it for the Lord, but for free also. Every Sunday. Don't tell me that they don't use their gear, because those rigs are usually like, damn, just for church.
It's some of the best rigs that you find.
You can
anywhere.
find, yeah, and even beautifully organized. And I'm not throwing stuff at them. It's simply like, it's amusing because it's the kind of stuff that I'm not part of it. But it took me by surprise as well. It was like a curveball. And then again, mind that you also saw the drums. The drums is insane, right?
Yeah.
The kit that they're rocking is like,
Some of the
God
best rigs
damn!
you ever saw.
Yeah, this is the kind of like,
And very good musicians.
yeah, they're actually
Very good
Yeah,
musicians.
so kudos to all of you worship guys.
Yes.
And actually, even the live shows,
Super high standards.
high sounds like, wow, well done, put in the effort. At least somebody's thinking of the children. So a long last. But now, so I say that there is some form of resurgence. We will see in the future if I'm correct or not. This is just a speculative territory. Now that we established this, let's get into the main question. If you were to start first as a drummer, because that's your area, allegedly,
Yeah.
what would be the first thing that you would recommend somebody to get who wants to learn drums? Because you happen to have a student right now. So what would be your recommendation?
So we're talking we're talking like from zero, like somebody who has a drum kit already, or someone.
That's what you. A wide-eyed. I'm just thinking of the persona. Okay.
Okay.
A wide-eyed, still hoping for the future, teenager. It's not gonna be kid. Being frank, and this is my personal opinion, but music, you should get into music not as a kid, just slightly older than a kid, because that's when you actually have the chances that comes with being young to learn stuff quickly, but also have enough of your brain developed and your consciousness developed for you to actually appreciate what you're doing and actually start to learn get into the depths of what the music theory is and stands for. So think of a teenager, let's say 12, in between 12 and 13, 15, sorry.
Yes.
That's basically nothing.
Look, first coming from my own experience and the time that I was living through these choices, and then trying to bring it to
that's
modern times.
that's what about it.
At the time that let's say 20 years ago, I would say, look, procure a decent set of cymbals, a decent snare, and a good
No drums.
a good kick drum pedal.
Okay.
Why would I go that route? Because at the time, at better times, when going to rehearsing studios was something
Possible.
or not only possible, but it was
Common ground.
common ground. You needed those.
Yeah.
You know, you that's what you took
Oh, I can see.
as a drummer.
already, yeah.
That's what you took as a drummer to the studio.
Clever.
But we don't live in those times anymore. So I don't know if I would stick to that suggestion, because honestly, a good chunk of the rehearsing studios died off
Yeah.
the last few years.
Yeah. Something related to China, right?
Yeah. How many? What percentage? I can't tell for sure, but I know that a good chunk of them.
Yeah.
And even the culture itself of going to rehearsal rooms also changed.
It's been a while since I never rent a studio room because I developed this space since very very early in my life.
Yeah.
But I see what you mean.
So the whole thing about using the rehearsing room as a grounds for learning and a grounds for getting your music off the ground, I don't know how it fits into the current scenario. What would you say about that before I can even finish my answer? Do you think this portrait that I'm painting makes sense of the studio, of the rehearsing room being kind of dead in the water?
I think for, and those of you watching, correct us if we are wrong. I can see where you're coming from, but I don't necessarily speaking know if by this very point in time that's still a thing. I think we're starting to see some form of recovery, not necessarily exactly the way we used to be back in the 2020. But I see some form of resurgence of many things, because if that applies to all other areas of entrepreneurship, that applies to this as well, because the people who needs access to a rehearsal room didn't go away. They're still here. So I assume that there should be some form of resurgence, but please give us your own personal experience as well. Let's play by ear and pretend that this is as you describe it, because I like what you proposed. I never stopped to think that it would be a good idea to use the rehearsal room shell kit and show up just with a good snare and a good cymbal, and of course a decent pedal, because it's way cheaper than buying the whole batch. Because that shows me that somebody who doesn't have access to a room, and being frank, drums are insanely loud. I have owned drums for a good chunk of my life, and I know that it's a problem. So you need more money, like bazillions of money, just to isolate the room. So if you have the chance, it's better to go to a rehearsal room.
And look, when it comes to that particular ensemble that I exposed, the whole thing about the snare, the pedal, and a set of cymbals, even though you're only starting, if you're already interested and you feel like it's something that you're gonna want to move forward in, I would recommend to get good quality stuff from the beginning. I would not say go for crap and then escalate, because I, for one, think, okay, if I'm thinking of escalating later on, basically I'm throwing the first one that I bought to the bin in concept. If I'm already going under the assumption that later I'm gonna buy a better one, why would I buy a shitty one first?
Good point.
So what I would recommend is focus on the very, very essentials. Let's say a hi-hat, a snare, a hi-hat, a crash, and a ride. You don't need more than that.
Fancy. The rest is extra.
Exactly, but get good quality ones. Don't need to be the ultra high end.
Because those are pro level, man. And being very honest, when you're starting off, you truly won't get anything. No, you would get benefits out of the good stuff, the pro level stuff. But since you are reckless at that point, particularly being a drummer, okay? On guitar stuff is different. Being a drummer and being not experienced enough to know how hard to hit them, you will eventually ruin a good set of cymbals because you're learning. And I know that because I have worked with several drummers in my life, and I have seen what happens.
It's not fun.
It's not fun because it had happened in the studio while recording, and of course, as soon as I see the cymbal, I learned the hard way that now, as soon as I see certain particularities on the cymbals, that's not gonna be a useful one. For example, the color. I know that they develop patina. That's 100% a thing, but there is a particular color to the rust, right? That's
not properly kept.
Not properly kept, and that tells you that it's gonna sound dull. It's not gonna resonate correctly in the room. And it's going to be a pain in the ass to record, and also, and even worse, for mixing. Also, it could show signs of kind of the metal is starting to become brittle. So it could be that you will be the witness of the moment of its death. So not fun. So it's better to avoid it. But I'm digressing. Here we got a comment, Joss. Good to have you here.
Hey, Joss.
He's saying that I see a lot of online rehearsals using internet. A friend of mine uses Jam-Kazam. I'm not familiar with those systems. If you can give me more information about it, just because I truly don't trust the whole thing with online. Because the other day when I was working with Just through the internet, using a system that I use quite often here in the studio for working remotely, which is called Session Wire. Fantastic service. It's excellent. But it wouldn't be useful for recording or for rehearsing due to the latency. maybe this one has a different way to deal with that, and it could be it could be efficient, because session wire is all about the quality of the audio, because it's meant to broadcast the output of the session that you might be working wherever you are, and it's going to be broadcasted and synchronized with the video feed in real time, so the sound quality is super high.
Yeah.
And you can take it almost to lossless. I think it goes to lossless if you go to the higher level. It's very good, but you can imagine that being more data, it slows down the whole thing.
Yeah.
I don't know this one. If you can give us more details, it just would be excellent. Okay, but that's good. And where do they rehearse as well? Just because if from what I get from what you're saying, online rehearsal means that the drummer,
Remotely.
yes, they have their own room, so they're not necessarily meeting. That's another kind of ones that we might tackle in a different conversation, because it's an interesting tech. Okay, so that would be the first suggestion for the drummer.
Yeah, and especially
all of those are sound, being frank.
Yeah, and especially because I do think that, especially at the point in time that you mentioned, the whole thing about in between 12, 15, which is usually when this kind of stuff starts to gain interest in your life, it has a very social side that should be present
It's
as
very
well.
important, man.
That's why even the dynamics of the studio and the whole thing about, rather than trying to create the perfect scenario at your own place, doing this in a way that can introduce you into a social nucleus, I think that's actually something very positive, because in the end, on the most part, music is made with more people.
Yeah, it is.
On the most part, of course.
It is. No, there are ways to do it by yourself, but there is something about it. And one more thing that I would add to that. One of the most, the best learning experiences that I ever got as a musician was inside of a dingy room, making noise with another bunch of kids, sounding awfully. Because trying to understand why we suck so much allowed me to learn many things. And that's something that using something like remote rehearsing is missing, man, because you kind of have everything isolated. You're not bombarded with the cacophony that sometimes you produce. And also this connection that happens with when people are playing music or attempting at it, and all of a sudden something starts to work, and you look at it, we're doing it, and of course you get distracted because you're like, yeah.
Yeah.
But you have that, man, and that's always like, it's one of those things that truly marks you.
And also when it comes to the whole soft skills side of the whole deal, regardless of what you want to do in music, there is a certain amount of social skills that you would be required of you for you to be able to fit yourself into the market.
Yeah, for example, visual cues to the other band members, super important. Also, you start to understand the roles of the instruments, allegedly, in a composition.
Yeah.
You start to see, wait, the bass player didn't show up today. Everything sounds weak.
Yeah.
So you start to see, oh, those guys are there for a reason. Okay, it's not just on our guitar.
Never imagined.
Never mind. Who pays attention to the bass player? Now, moving to a different instrument. I got the keyboards here in front of me. If you're one of those MFers who decided to go for keyboards, well done. You got basically not only a good instrument, a profession in your hands. Because every freaking band in the world requires keyboards, but not every band in the world requires two guitars. So, especially if you're playing covers, keyboards are fantastic for covers.
Yeah.
Because you can do many things with them. You don't have to go for a badass analog synthesizer, because I would never buy an analog synthesizer if I was to be starting, especially because that means that I would be rehearsing. Analog synthesizers are fantastic. They sound incredible. I have some of them here. Well, actually, all of the synths here are analog. And I love them to death. Beth would never use them live. Why? They go detune. They actually go out of tune. You gotta tune them up like a guitar. First thing. Secondly, they are expensive to keep up. The maintenance cost of those guys is quite high. If you go retro, it's even worse. Then some of them have patches. For example, is out of the field of view. But one of the guys that I have here is a Alpha Juno too. So is the late is the okay that one is the last iteration of the Juno family. That one has actually digital control oscillators, DCOs. which allows for you to actually save patches. It's the best thing ever. But the problem is that they sacrifice the entire interface, so it's a pain in the ass to actually manipulate. So, also one thing is gonna be, the sounds are gonna be basically just the sounds that can be created by the synth. So which one I would recommend? Go for one of those kind of workstation, like a Korg or a North.
They do everything.
That does everything.
Yeah.
And if you go for something, no, but Roland is making reissues. But I think one of the area, you know, the green ones, the ones that look like Tron but green. I think one of those have a romper, a very powerful romper.
Yamaha has a few good.
Oh, Yamaha as well. Yamaha as well. So those I will go for one of those. And actually, if you think about it, keyboards, if you spend a bit, not necessarily, no more than a few $100s, you're already
Ready
set
to go?
forever.
Yeah.
For real, because it's gonna be very tough for any band of any level to look down on you.
Actually, if you got a good one from the get.
If you get a good one for the game, you don't have to spend big bucks. Of course, if you want to go for the equivalent to the Kronos by Korg, we're talking about, that's a workstation, man. We're talking about, that guy is a band.
Yeah, and for you in the beginning, you use like 2% of what the machine has.
Yeah, because you're even learning, you don't even know what synthesis is.
Yeah.
You're learning piano, man. And from piano, then you move over to the insanity that is synthesis. So yeah, and I would suggest getting a keyboard, because
So
it's,
no guitar?
no, wait. The thing is that keyboards. Look, I'm a guitar player, but keyboards. That's a hard truth you learn later. Keyboards allows you to be better at in the recording studio as a producer, because it teaches you much more musical elements. You have to learn some form of orchestration in order to use in order to play piano correctly. That translates greatly if you hit the production side of things. It gives you that extra versatility.
Yeah.
Plus the benefit of being able to control any goddamn virtual instrument in history.
True.
So
Yeah.
it's the best thing. I should have done that. But I wanted to look cool. You're like, I want to rock. Let me check this comment.
Yeah, Joss is talking to us.
Yeah, he says, Joss is commenting. If you get the right people, you can click with them with ideas, and the ideas will flow 100%. That's how it is. Musicians pay in the thousands on gear, and sometimes play for empty bars. Been there, done that. I feel you, bro. Or maybe 2 or 3 people at the gig. Girlfriend, wife, and mom.
Girlfriend and wife? Both at the same bar? That doesn't sound like a great idea.
Well, depends on the kind of people you are. Okay, if you want to live on the edge. Okay. And sometimes most of the audience is the representative of our musician. Yeah, look at that. Yeah. And look, that's why we wanted to have this conversation, because that's discouraging for many people. Because I have seen it here in the studio. Some people start to get excited, and they spend more money than they should on fantastic gear, but the use they got for it is very minimal, and that first, the hole in their pockets is gigantic, usually, because they go on a brush of in a what's the name, frenzy, buying everything they can. They don't know what to do with it, and that's why I know that, because I have bought plenty of gear out of those guys. So I'm doing a favor. It's not that I'm taking advantage of a poor. It's not. It's not my fault that they have low impulse control, man. But I see that problem, because that also creates tension, especially with people in areas and stuff. Because damn it, these things can become very expensive.
And it's also one other reason why I don't recommend buying cheap stuff with the intention of upgrading later on.
Yeah.
Because I think it creates that kind of culture of
that
always
habit.
being buying, when you don't need to be buying all the time.
No.
Once you actually supplied yourself with
Correct
good
tools.
quality basics, for instance, you wouldn't need to upgrade your system or your rig until you actually feel the need for it, which can be years down the road.
Especially using the cases scenario that we're using as a starting point for a conversation, because you're starting off. Again, using the keyboard, if you, let's say that your maximum budget is probably $500, man, you're already flying with that.
Actually, yeah, when it comes to keyboards,
you're
yeah.
flying. When it comes to drums, you might need a little bit more, because a good pedal. When it comes to drums, I would recommend go for the best pedal you can get, the kick pedal, because it's impossible for you to break it, and the better technique you develop, the sooner.
Yeah.
Because man, you have done it.
Yeah, no, it is better. It's sound advice.
And it's actually a good game changer.
It is.
Because if you are not able to get something at a high level, coming back to the drums, for everything, I would put all of my money, or the vast majority of my money, on the kick, the pedal.
The pedal.
And then, okay, cymbals, because cymbals, the not good cymbals have its uses. You can use them for stacking them up and create some sound effects, but you will learn to do that after you reach the point on which you don't like those cymbals anymore because you're that good. So it's a natural evolution. But the kick pedal is gonna be there forever. And if you get the best, damn it, you're gonna become good fast. I've seen it as well.
One thing that I haven't had the chance to try for myself, which it seems to be a good alternative for new drummers nowadays, is some of those muted cymbals.
Oh yes, the ones with holes.
Yeah, because allegedly they sound decent. I don't think they do. They probably get the job done when it comes to minimizing the noise.
Yes.
And you have an equivalent to that to the heads as well. So you would be able.
The ones on the heads are pads, right?
But they're meshed. They're meshed.
Oh, interesting.
And they sound like drum kits,
super quiet,
but quieter.
Well, that's the point, man. Because let me see if I have it here. Look, this is my rehearsal amp, my practice amp. It fits here. This sounds as it looks. No, it doesn't sound bad, but it's tiny, man. It's tiny, but this is very convenient because I have effects, patches. 4 patches, you don't need more for practicing purposes. It runs on its own battery. The battery lasts like days, for real, because if you don't use it at a loud level, it lasts for eons. Has Bluetooth connectivity, so you can actually use your phone to play some backing tracks, and you can rehearse. You can practice to this or having some lessons. Excellent, and you can hang it to by the strap, allowing you to move around. Very, very convenient. So you don't need to get something insanely real to life sounding for practicing purposes.
But look, I don't know, even though I haven't had the experience of using those myself, I kind of understand a little bit the shortcomings, and I think I wouldn't recommend them to someone only getting started.
Why?
Because it serves only one purpose. You won't be able to play with those. Let's say you find yourself in a situation where you would, let's say, be called to play with your friends in a given occasion. Those only serve the purpose of practicing, which there's nothing wrong. Is it good to have?
But I can see where we're going, because you won't be able to perform live with those. You will have to buy the another set.
Yeah, so it's good to have a practicing rig, but I think you have a practicing rig once you already covered in of all of the bases.
Yes, I actually got I got my practicing rig after I had my main rig finished.
Yeah,
and I usually move like that because I learned from experience as well. My first guitar amplifier was a tiny F20 Yamaha. They still make them, actually.
Yeah.
No, because they're actually not bad amps. But man, 20 watts, tiny, just a 10-inch speaker. Very, very, very impossible to use it outside of the dingy room.
Yeah.
So here's another comment. He's saying that my old drummer stopped taking his good drums to gigs because he was always getting ripped off. If you got quality instruments, expect the possibility of it getting stolen 100%.
It's sad that
totally
this is truth.
Never happened to me, wink wink. Of course it happened to me several times.
It's a shame that this is an advice that needs to be given, but it is true. You need to care for your stuff because, well, there's always someone...
The other solution is spending as much money on safety measures so you know that they cannot be stolen.
Oh, actually, now that you mentioned this, is a little bit of a tangent, but I don't want to forget.
Oh.
If you're buying good quality stuff, please do yourself the favor and invest equally in proportion in the
transportation.
Cases and
yes,
transportation.
please.
Because I've seen people with some of the most expensive cymbal sets that I ever saw in my life.
In a shitty bag.
In the shittiest, most unreliable looking bag you ever see in your life.
Yeah, we're talking about probably $1,000 investment.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous. I know what you mean.
So if you're going for good quality stuff, protect it. And know that you can carry it without having to worry that it's gonna arrive safely at the place.
Yeah, there are plenty of options because when it comes to guitars, which is the one that I have the most transportation cases, because we got one for drums that is excellent. More on that later. When it comes to guitars, the gig bags that you see online, the ones that are cheap, like probably no more than $50, those guys are great if you just want to protect your guitar from dust. No more than that. If you truly want to move the guitar around, you need something that is padded and actually has some form of not fortitude. What's the word I'm looking for? Like some form of structural fortitude.
Yeah.
You don't have to go for a hard shell case. Those are excellent, but those are cumbersome. They're heavy. They're great if you're gonna pack up or stack up stuff on a van. That's the best solution. If you're gonna be doing some local tours and stuff on a van, get those. It's better than the flight cases. I have the one that I have for bass and guitar is very good. Is made by Group Gear. Is the Gig Blade.
Yeah, those are very good.
Those are excellent. They look like a golf bag.
Yeah.
They are not necessarily the best looking guitar cases you can get, but they're very good. Very good.
Very well padded. Very,
the whole thing, and it has survived traveling, crossing the ocean and stuff, going to different continents.
Yeah.
So yeah, totally recommended. It's something that the thing is that you're already talking about investing probably 350 upwards in the case alone. So you gotta just be mindful of at what point in your life you are as a musician. Because, as Joss is saying, it's very sad to see people bringing the good stuff for it to either get stolen or damaged due to transportation. So you gotta be mindful. The one we got for drums is fantastic. It's just for the hardware.
For the hardware, it's a very good hardware.
It's a very good hardware bag.
What's the brand?
Tama.
It's Tama,
Tama, my favorite brand in drums. Tama. It's a fantastically designed, very sturdy. It has wheels and everything. It behaves like a luggage.
Yeah.
It's very good, and it fits everything fits in it.
Yeah.
All of the hardware. We're talking about the metallic parts.
Yeah.
All of the stands and stuff. Everything, including the stool, can go there.
Yeah.
And for the shells, we got these actually very efficient as well. Well, but it's a kick drum. The thing is that the one that we're using for performing outside is an electric drum kit.
Yeah.
It's a very good one that's already outside of this conversation.
Actually, that one in particular is outside
that's
of this
ridiculous,
conversation. But the idea of an electric kick drum kit
go
is actually
there.
something that could be talked about, because nowadays, I wouldn't make this recommendation, let's say, 15 years ago. Because
those were novelties, man.
Yeah, and you had at the time, there were already good electric drum kits, but they were only accessible to the pros.
Yes.
You didn't have entry level that was actually good.
Alessis has plenty of those mesh-based electric drum kits that are very good. Of course, we're talking about something that is like $700, so, and it comes with everything.
Yeah.
And those are very good.
Yeah.
Very good for the price is insane.
Yep.
They also have MIDI compatibility, which allows for them to be used in the studio.
Yeah.
Completely different beast.
Yeah.
But the sound you get out of them out of the box is excellent.
Yeah.
And being mesh, well, you tell me.
Yeah. Look, first and foremost, I would not recommend an electric drum kit to be the very first introduction to drumming.
Agreed.
Okay. So I'd say the whole thing about going for the cymbals, the snare, that goes still. Further down the line, you're already into it. I think having an electric drum kit is a great solution for drummers nowadays. Practicing, and even more, because that's where I think that the electric drum kit beats the whole thing with the mesh heads and the
I can see where you're going with that.
Cymbals.
Yeah, it's a better solution.
It is, and it's more versatile. It's a lot more versatile.
You can use that one live.
You can.
You will look like a dork.
Regardless, you can.
Depending on the design of the drum kit, because the one we got here.
Looks legit.
It looks like a drum kit.
Yeah.
It's a Roland, but it's taking you to a completely different echelon in price point.
But why wouldn't I recommend going? Because an electric drum kit is very versatile. It does the job, it does the practicing, it does everything. But why wouldn't I recommend for you to get into it through an electric drum kit?
Technique.
No, and even before technique, because technique, yes, but even before that, once you're getting started with an instrument, you want to enjoy it.
Yeah.
Before anything, you won't move forward if you're not enjoying the process. Of course, practicing is never fun, because practicing is not necessarily meant to be fun.
Yeah.
But you should find enjoyment in what you're doing. And electric drum kits is by a lot less enjoyable than playing on the actual kit.
Yeah, because the noise, the punch, the je ne sais quoi.
Yeah.
That thing that comes from the actual real deal. Because being on the other side of the drum kit, when you're playing, this is me actually playing the drums. there is something, Michael, that happens when you hit the kick and the cymbals set correctly at the same time.
Yeah.
The sound projected is super loud on the other side, but
Yeah.
you get the energy.
Yeah.
So it's more about the
Yeah.
and when you begin doing something heavy,
Yeah.
you feel the groove. There is something different, man, and it's the sound. It's not necessarily the reaction you get.
Yeah.
Because yes, good point. I didn't think about it.
And in the beginning, you need that drive. And I think further down the road, you're already into it. You're already engaged. You already know that this is what you're gonna be doing.
Yeah.
An electric drum kit is definitely a great tool to have as a drummer.
Yeah, just saying here that an electric drum kit is excellent if you don't want to bother your neighbors and your wife and your son, because
Or even yourself, if
or
it's
even
less
yourself.
tiring.
Yeah, because actually one of the benefits that I see of using electric drums is that even though you saw how much emphasis I put on the feel and the sound and everything, yeah, but if you're practicing, if you're doing something, if you're repeating a particular exercise, you're not there for the feel. You're there for the repetition.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And the fatigue that comes out of loud sources actually stops you from enjoying and makes it even more annoying.
Yeah.
Or if you're rehearsing with the rest of your band and you're practicing a particular run that is kind of tricky, man, that goes so fast.
Yeah, yeah.
So an electric drum kit is excellent for that as well. But this is the more professional take on the whole thing. If you're once again at the first steps, full on with the real deal.
Yeah.
Now moving over to my territory,
Go.
microphones.
As a singer,
It's just a microphone.
singers, we're here talking about drums and how inconvenient it is. You need to get little by little. You get a cymbal, then you get another, then you get a snare.
Yeah, just get a microphone. And
Yeah,
that's it.
and you don't even need a microphone, depending on the situation.
Yeah, sometimes it's provided by a venue.
Yeah. Freaking singers.
Yeah, so you just spend money on lessons, and that's it. I kind of stress enough the importance of taking lessons.
You just buy yourself some talent and that's
Oh
it.
yeah. And man, you know that singing doesn't even need talent anymore. If you know what I mean. So yeah, but singers you just need a proper microphone, and that's it. And my recommendation: get a what's the one? There are some Neumann, of course. I'm going for a fancy. Wait.
Come on, man.
But we're talking about $300.
For real?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's a hand microphone. It's not gonna be a freaking studio level. The thing is that those are very good. And the more expensive they sell is I think $100 for live shows, and that's one that is very good. I can attest to that because I have used them before. Probably some of the best microphones. Also, Shure has great microphones. The Beta series, excellent. The Beta 80. No, that's another one.
The Beta 52 is the one that
No, that's on the drum kit.
the kick
The
one.
kick drum.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's one of the beta. It's the 56 or 58. Don't remember. Those are great as well. But I would recommend a condenser microphone. Look for a condenser microphone because those tend to be more. Well, they don't tend. They are more sensitive, so they allow for better performances if you happen to be a singer in the sense of Journey, for example, someone who's singing. Okay, if you go for
should we get into that comment? If you're a singer that actually sings,
yeah, not those the laughs. No. Let me rephrase it. If you're a melodic singer, because if you're someone who is more on the James Hetfield territory, if you're more on the shouty side of things, get a dynamic, because you're gonna always be clipping the living stuff out of the condenser.
you should handle your.
You need to handle the sound pressure level.
Yeah.
So get some. It depends on what kind of style you're doing. So I would recommend again even a humble SM57.
Yeah.
That guy, oof, you
Handles
won't.
everything.
That handles everything, and it's great. On vocals, it's fantastic. And proof of it, if I recall correctly, I think during the recordings for Soundgarden, Super Unknown, they tracked Chris Cornell's vocals with two microphones. One of them was a 57, and the other one, if I recall correctly, I don't remember, but because my head is divided in between the big one, the beta, the 7B, SM7B, or a condenser. Because since Chris Cornell was a very loud singer, he needed something like that. But I know for a fact that they used a 57, and if it's good enough for him, I think might be good enough for you.
I think that the whole industry is running on 57s.
It is. It is indeed, man, because every recording you hear, either live or on in the studio, there's a bunch of 57s there. And you know which one that is. You have seen it. It's a quintessential microphone. Let me check this comment.
Yep.
The singers just have one instrument, their voice and a mic, but they do have a tough job to do to get the crowd going 100%. It's probably the toughest of the jobs, being frank, because handling the crowd is very difficult.
Yeah, it's very important.
Is the key to the success of the night, man.
Yeah, it is.
But you forgot one and the most important of instruments, their ego. Without their ego, there's nothing.
No, but there's actually one instrument and something that the singers need to be aware of.
Their throat.
Their clothes.
Oh, yeah.
Actually,
good point.
as a singer,
they have to invest in looking dapper.
Yep, because everybody should.
Yeah.
Everybody in the band should.
Yeah, but the one who is not covered half of his body by a freaking instrument,
Yeah.
is the one that.
Yeah, the singer's at the forefront is the one that actually is the face of the band.
Yeah, because there is nothing worse than not knowing if the singer is not one of the guys you were drinking with while sitting at the bar. Yeah, for real. Because whenever I see that, like, man, just wear a freaking shirt. For God's sake, just get a shirt.
Yeah.
And that already elevates you a little bit.
And it's something, jokes aside, this is something that singers should take into consideration. It's important.
That doing the ladies thing is what actually will allow you to perform again next week. 100% for real.
Yeah.
So don't escape on that one, please. Now moving on now to my lesser control territory, guitars.
So what you would advise newbie, upcoming, and bright-eyed guitar players to do when it comes to using their money wisely?
Get a keyboard. First.
Drop that shit.
Don't do it. Don't do it. Because it's a never-ending quest. No, first, outside of jokes aside, get a guitar that is okay. Don't go for the cheap Chinese-made knocks off. Those suck. Because if you go down the road, go, yeah, but I can buy the Chinesium and then upgrade it. Yes, not a bad idea. I have done it. And it's very efficient. But I would only recommend you to do that when you're gigging constantly. Because if you get a very good guitar, let's say you spent already $1,500 on it, you're still mid-tier. You won't like that getting scratched or God forbid, freaking stolen.
Yeah.
So if you get a very pedestrian-looking guitar, but you remove the entirety of the pedestrian out of it by putting good pickups, invest in the pickups, great tuners, those two already set the instrument apart from the shittiness.
And take it to a new level, yeah.
Yeah, but the point on which you have to invest the most, setting it up correctly. If you don't want to learn the craft, and I will recommend you not to do it, it's very difficult. You run many risks. You can actually ruin the entire thing, and you will have to, for example, if you're filing the frets, because that's very important, and it's not something that you have seen me doing in the last few weeks on a particular guitar.
Yeah.
Filing the frets takes a lot of precision. It's easy. Mechanical speaking is easy. You just get the proper tool and you just do it. The thing is that if you overdo it, you cannot add more material back.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. And if you do it too extremely, you will have to replace the fret. And that opens up a huge can of worms that you don't want to get into it. But if you don't know how to do it, find someone who is good at it. And as soon as you get the guitar, before you even take lessons, at least make sure that the luthier checks it. It will tell you everything that is wrong with it. Then you go to the lessons. You begin, because for the luthier to do a good job on your guitar, he has to see you play. He has to see what kind of attack you got, what kind of music you're playing, because the music genre is very important. You'll see why. The action of the strings. A guitar player such as, I don't know, Ivy Malmsteen, and he's kind of controversial in that regard, but someone who plays fast will benefit of having a low action.
Yeah.
Because there are plenty of notes. But if you're playing, for example, a jazz player, think of your Pat Martino, for example, super fast and super clean. But if you're playing blues, you need to be able to let the string rest on it. Higher action is needed. Because depending on the style of music, the action could benefit or make your life difficult.
Mm-hmm.
So don't fall for the trap of low action means great. No, it depends. Or let's say that you're mostly a rhythm guitar. If your role in the band is rhythm, you need a higher action as well, because you need every power chord you play should be bam. It should feel full and energetic.
And how early in a guitar player's life do you think it should be?
The sooner the better. Why? Because that also reflects in the playability of the instrument.
Okay.
If the guy feels kind of, instead of playing the instrument, he's battling the instrument, we'll stop practicing.
Yeah.
We'll stop learning, and that's probably the Achilles heel of this instrument.
Yeah, because that's the beginning of the end.
It's the beginning of the end.
Yeah.
Because on drums, no problem. You get me.
Yeah.
Because for as long as they're not, and even if they're out of tune, they don't care. Let's face it. Because there are no mechanical opposition. On the guitar, you might be saying, come on, how much that hurts." It does hurt because the positions for the string for your fingers on the fretboard are unnatural to any human being. So our muscles are not developed or designed to do that kind of pressing. So you need to develop, and it hurts. It's basically going to the gym. And during this morning, we were having this conversation while organizing for the day on the importance of having a good maintenance routine. 20 minutes. It doesn't have to be an hour because that's a practicing thing. But just to some quick rounds, exercises
To keep yourself
in shape.
Yeah.
Because the sharpness comes from practicing. But keep your muscles ready to rock.
Yeah.
Because you have to see yourself as an athlete in that regard. Yeah. Now here's a comment here. I say get a cheap guitar with a warped neck with steel strings to build up the actually calluses and strength on the fingers.
Actually, I was
Not
about
necessarily
to
a bad,
Yeah, because I've seen this take before, and I'm actually gonna turn it into a question. I've seen people recommending starting off not necessarily with bad guitars, but with guitars that actually gonna hurt by design.
I agree. That's why I didn't suggest as soon as you get the guitar, make sure that the luthier makes it the most comfortable possible. You don't know yet.
Yeah.
And it might be a bad idea to do because it might actually play backwards. Far backwards.
Quick, another question now. A lot of people that gets into guitars, they often start off with acoustic guitars.
Yes.
Because you don't need anything else.
Yeah.
You don't.
No, that's actually
So, what do you think about if someone is actually invested in electric guitars? Would you say that starting with acoustic is a good route, or they should already get going with electric from the beginning?
Look, as I would suggest, let me put it this way: the psychological factor is probably the most important part. Because if you want to rock, you're gonna look at the acoustic. That's lame. But if the psychological element wasn't as important as it is, go for the acoustic.
Okay.
Why? It's a cheaper route, and acoustic guitars, by design, have to be way tougher to play than electrics. So it will do kind of the callus and the warped neck thing, because it's gonna actually put a lot of opposition, and it will teach you. It will begin to grant you the resilience, the muscular fortitude, and even the temperament as well in yourself, because you're bar chords are the bane of everybody's existence.
Yeah, in the beginning,
even later, man. Because if you're playing an hour-long show, let's say you've been playing for an hour, and you're gonna still be playing for another hour to finish off the show, you start to feel them, because man, no human being was designed to press six or seven strings.
That's such a natural thing to do.
It's like this.
Yeah.
This is normal.
Yeah.
That's the difference. That's where this difference comes from.
That's why bass instruments, drums.
Yeah, of course.
It's the most natural.
Of course, it's the most natural. Besides singing, right? The one that requires nothing. But now, the huge kind of worms that is the pedal board thing, and amplifiers and gear.
So let me ask you.
Yes.
How early would you recommend to a guitar player to get into the whole pedals game?
Let me put it this way. How about never? Why? No, look, pedals are fantastic. They're amazing. They inspire you to write music. And they're not necessarily ultra expensive. all of those are problems. Because you want one and another.
Elaborate.
Yeah, you keep buying. You keep adding more pedals to your board. And the big issue with that is that there is FOMO. Because there are certain pedal manufacturers that realize that they can sell exclusives and stuff. Nothing but tipping my Pro Fedora. What a great marketer team they got. Their marketing team. The issue is that sometimes like, damn, I want to get the not a clone, and they only have like 1,000, and they released the not a Dumble. No, so of course, man, they realized, damn it, this is easy, and the best part, they build them themselves. Okay, man, let them make cake. So, fantastic, JHS pedals, great company. They're very, very fun, and actually, their pedals are excellent. I have some of them here, and I use them quite often. So very, very good. But the issue with pedals is that there are benefits of it with it. First, you will learn a lot of actual electric science, electricity, because you will learn the importance of voltages. You will understand, and you will finally learn what, in the name of F, is a toroidal core. Yeah, many things for real. You're gonna start to see, this is DC current. So AC/DC. It's not just a band. You start to, many things happens, man. You start to appreciate. You learn many things that will serve you well in many other aspects of life. Also, you start to develop some actual understanding of signal flow. Not as deep as would be needed for you to get into the mixing thing, but good enough for you to, whenever you reach that point on which you're actually hitting a professional studio, and you're working with a producer, you will understand what's going on. Not necessarily know exactly what he's doing, but you will understand exactly what's going on, because you understand the concept of signal path. It will allow you to develop a more finer sense of musicality and texture. You will develop more the pitch thing. You would be able to hear it, because you're going to start to see the difference between positioning knobs in one point and another. Has many benefits. The problem is that it becomes a rabbit hole, a never-ending story. I, for one, I have never been that attached to pedals, as you can see. I see them as a necessity, because it's needed. You start to, especially when you're doing this job, you need to be able to have colors. And actually, all of the pedals that I own, I bought them just for the studio. Just because we were touring, I actually assembled a pedal board for it. But most of my pedals are just were bought for studio work. I would recommend first get a good amp, the best amp you can get, and even better, don't get an amp, get a freaking modular, because those nowadays, even the Chinesium copies, comes with effects, so you can learn everything without breaking the bank. Because you can get, for example, Tonex is my weapon of choice. You know that I love that ecosystem. Tonex, you can get Tonex 1, the tiny, for what, like $150, I think.
Is it?
It is that cheap. It is ridiculously affordable. It's almost a steal. You feel like, it's ridiculously affordable. And it comes with everything you need to get started. And I actually use it in my main board. That's my amplifier for whenever I actually have to use the big guns, because it's that good. And also comes with plenty of the snapshots, the different tones created, so you can actually even taste different flavors and get to a very good point. The problem with that, and that's the double-edged nature of this, it's gonna make you reliant on presets. Big problem. Big problem, because one of the reasons why modern rock sucks so much, it's the fact that everybody is rocking presets. Everybody's rocking the same modulars, the same IRs, and nobody has ever stopped in front of an amplifier in order to get a tone, because nobody, man, believe me, doing this job, you meet people that they are guitar players, but they have never used an amplifier in their lives. They know how to dial a tone, and the problem as a producer, like, so what do you have in mind? I don't know. You tell me. No. Dude, you're the musician. And everything I do, I run the risk of you not liking it. So if you ever hit the studio, please make freaking sure that if you don't have to know That's normal. That's expected. And those who know are actually outside of the norm. But at least show up with a template, some form of look, like Guns N' Roses. Which album? On what song? Which of the guitar players? That.
A clear reference.
Be good at that. Come up with a proper reference. That makes a difference. Let me see this comment.
Yeah.
You learn key signatures. Use pedals. Give me go. Coming back to the pedal thing. Yeah, pedals like guitars are addictive. Before you know, you become a collector of guitars and gear. Yeah, that's it. That's the problem with guitar, because in the case of bass, since bass is very straightforward, due to its role in the band, there are not that many effects that you can buy or pedals. There are several. The Mutron comes to mind. It's great. I prefer it on bass rather than on guitar, but that's a matter of opinion. But it's the envelope filter thing. It's like an auto wah kind of thing.
Okay.
How many songs can you use it before it goes old on bass?
Yeah, half a song.
Half a song. Yeah, usually you use it in particular sections.
Yeah.
Now speaking of this distortion, a much sense amp. Do you need more?
Not really.
No, for real.
Yeah.
Because sense amp is an EQ and a badass distortion circuit that also works on guitar. Fantastically well, actually. Very well on guitar. And then he says that you learn key signatures, chords, and scales, and augmented chords and crashes along with improvisation technique and phrases. Along with motivation, with improvisation and technique. Sorry, because it's kind of far, and the screen is kind of lying here. That's actually probably the most important skill to acquire as a guitar player, because you need vocabulary. And that applies to every instrument, I would say. This is the final one, lessons.
Yeah.
Probably the most important one, and it's the one that everybody avoids, because it's not fun. Because my monkey brain requires to earn stuff to feel rich, or satisfied. You get me?
Yeah.
And yeah, everybody falls for it. I myself will be the first one to raise my hand, because if you don't spend the right amount of money and time and effort on getting lessons, you're just gonna be running in circles. You won't improve. And if you keep progressing in this is my own personal experience. I felt I was ashamed of myself in several occasions on which I couldn't communicate with certain people because I didn't know an iota of music theory. Sucks. Yeah. Then you want to write music, and then you start to see that, damn it, I'm always doing the same. Why? Because you only know those freaking chords? Have you ever heard of Honian or Phrygian? That's it, man. So your sound as a composer starts to become stale, boring, predictable, not daring at all. It's super safe. You end up playing just punk.
So condescending.
No. All that is mostly a joke, because when I was a kid, it was one of the first moments on which I started to understand music, because I realized that after listening to a few Blink 182 songs, I could predict the next chords for the next one. Why? It's Blink 182. It's not that I was a prodigy by any means, but that allowed me to see. Oh, wait a second. There is patterns taking place. You start to see how music works, and that's actually a very good thing to have. But that only develops out of learning.
Yeah.
And that only happened when I already got my first guitar. So the experience, I always refer to that freaking guitar as the bane of my existence, but also it kind of was the key to open the floodgates, to open the gates to hell in my brain. So wherever.
So that's the high note that you wanna end.
No. Just get lessons, please. But I had the chance to attend to a session with Frank Bardon. Not a session, but a class, an open class that he gave. And one of the things that he suggested, because one of the very rare occasions of somebody actually asking an intelligent question. Somebody asked him, because Frank Bardon, for those of you who know, one of the best guitar players ever. Huge fan of his work, huge fan of his tone, huge fan of his technique. Love him in any version. My best version is with Stu Hammond and Steve Smith. That slaps.
Yeah, if you're into fusion, that's definitely something you should check out because
Yeah.
that trio
Not
is
just fusion, badass
badass music.
music, just like that. It's just excellent.
Yeah.
Proficiency galore. But one of his answer, the question was this: when do you think is a good point to get actual lessons for your instrument? Because he learned by himself. Said, I'm gonna put it this way: my goal in life was to be good enough to end up being part of Chick Corea's band. And when he auditioned for it, he was very concerned because he saw Patitucci, the bass player. That guy is also insane.
Yeah.
He's a monster when it comes to music theory, and he knew. Frankenball knew. And I said, damn it. He's here. He's gonna show me, man. If they ask me something, I'm gonna look like an ass. so he did what he did. He does well, playing incredibly. So he landed the job. He ended up being part of the band, and also they even have that electric romantic warrior. Electric. What's the name of that guy? Of that band? Oh, damn it! Return to Forever. Yes, Return to Forever, but I don't know if Frankenball is the guitar player. Correct me if I'm wrong, but whatever. He was part of Electric Band, and that was the moment on which he realized that he truly needed to take music theory seriously.
And he was already Frankenball.
He was already Frankenball. He was already playing with Chigre when he was like, no man, because what he said, like, I'm talking to these two guys. Chigre is also a monster.
Yeah.
Music theory is, no man, that guy knows his stuff. Like, man, I'm gonna lose my job as soon as they realize that I'm a hack.
I won't be able to communicate with them.
Yeah, it's what it was.
Yeah.
And he said this: I think you shouldn't do it at the beginning because you will end up becoming a lesser version of your teacher, sound-wise and technique-wise.
That's actually a very good take.
But you should do it once, and you must do it. You ought to do it once you develop your sound. And that means even just how hard you hit the strings.
Yeah.
That's something that you develop by your own.
Yeah.
It's the same what happens with drums. Everything. It's the
Yeah.
texture, man. Because you can suck, but at least you sound like you.
Yeah.
That's important
You
thing.
suck your way.
Your way. From there onwards, if you get lessons, now you're gonna refine, you're gonna learn, you're gonna expand upon what you already developed, but being your own. So
Very good advice. Yeah.
no, I want to senpai. You're like, wow, that was intelligent and deep and experienced. Oh, well, like Frankenball, of course. So let me check this one.
Yeah.
I think that depends. Some musicians who don't know music theory have a good ear and are just as good as, if not better, than those that are schooled 100%. Music theory is fine, but feel makes the crowd say, yeah, and see. It has point of correlation to what Frankenball said.
Yeah.
Because you need to have that feel that Joss refers to. Because without having a voice, whatever you say means nothing. Because it's just part of the noise. Like dust in the wind. Kind of late, but thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so on that note, I think we managed to keep this conversation kind of positive.
It was kind of on the positive side, yes.
Kinda, well, yeah. Just the moral of the story: buy keyboards, and if you can avoid it, don't do this. just find yourself a hobby. Get into Warhammer. No, Warhammer is also terrible.
It's worse.
It's worse than this.
Yeah.
Get no, video games suck. So no. Get a girlfriend. God damn it. Yeah, just go out and get a girlfriend.
Yeah, occupy your time with that.
Yeah. It's way more. It's way better for your life in every regard. And no, you don't need a guitar to get a girlfriend. So don't do that.
Yeah.
That never works.
That's a lie.
That's a lie. So on that note, what would be your final?
No, I think we can leave the Frankenball to have the final word. I think
Okay.
we can leave it at that. So I'll just say that if it's the first time you watch this conversation, we have conversations like this every week, and we invite you to be part of it. So
Yeah.
if you're not subscribed to the channel yet, please do, and also ring the freaking notification bell, because like that you can be notified whenever.
Subscribing does nothing.
Yeah, exactly. So you can be told once we're doing this again, and also for the rest of the videos and stuff that happens on the channel, which is targeting musicians, and it will be great having you as part of the conversation
Yes.
as well.
Speaking of musicians, just I saw that you uploaded some files to the Boombox website, to the boombox folder that we got. I'm gonna check them out, and I will get in touch with you through email as soon as I give it a listen. And of course, I'm gonna leave comments on it because so we can get going with the project. Okay. So on that note, thanks for joining, thank you for watching, and as usual, as every time we meet you, we gotta remind you that you should never let anybody tell you what to dream about. And remember that we'll see you when we see you. Don't buy key.